Hi everyone, my name is John and I'm the lead K'NEX designer here at Basic Fun, and today we're going to build the Eiffel Tower. Our Eiffel Tower is part of our new K'NEX Architecture series and it's available through Amazon, so go and check it out. Also, we have our London Eye model and the Golden Gate Bridge. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is unbox this, and one very important thing that will help you throughout the build is some type of tray. This plastic one here works really well. You can use a baking pan or anything with an outside edge. So one of the first things you'll see is the K'NEX instruction booklet. Hang on to this, it's really important. And then if you open up to the first page, you're going to see the parts, how they go together, and some simple tips and tricks. If you're new to K'NEX, this is really helpful information. And then once you go to the second page, this is also really important. This is your parts list. This will show the different types of parts included in the set, and it will also show the quantities of each. All right, so now, if we empty this out, you're gonna see 5 different bags of parts. Make sure they're all included. We can put the box to the side. Okay, so here you're going to see the parts list, and this is going to show the different types of pieces as well as the quantity for each. When you open up the box, you're going to see these 5 different bags of parts, and then the best thing to do is open up one bag at a time. So I'm going to take this one here. All right, and for sorting, I'm going to use these bins right here. These are really handy. If you have cups, bowls, mugs, anything on hand, this will work really well for sorting these parts. Okay, so I'm going to start with this first bag here. All right, and all these bags are recyclable, so make sure you have a recycling bin. Okay, so now we've gone through the sorting process. I have 21 different containers here with the 21 different pieces. So now we're organized and ready to begin. Abraham Lincoln once said, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. When it comes to K'NEX, sharpening the axe is getting organized and making sure you have everything you need. So now the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and count each individual part. And so that way I know I have everything I need to begin the build and finish it to the end. Now, if you find you're missing pieces for whatever reason, there's an easy way to request new. In order to do this, go to basicfun.com, customer support, and then go to K'NEX. You'll find an online form where you can fill out your information. And then all you need is your product code. For the Eiffel Tower, it's 15238. And then you'll need your individual product stamp. This is found in the bottom right-hand corner of the instructions. At K'NEX, we want everyone to have the best user experience possible. So if you are missing pieces, we want to get those to you as soon as we can. All right, so now we're ready to begin step 1. I'm going to take this assembly of parts here. Going to take that assembly, and all you're going to do is join those two together. Okay, step 1 complete. Okay, so now for this step, we're going to use what's called a rod con. It's half rod, half connector. And so these are probably the toughest part to engage into a connector. A little tip is you can actually twist it as you push it in the connector. That'll make it go a little easier, just like so. And at the same point too, if you have any conditions where with your hands where you're limited in your strength, you can use a small pair of needle nose pliers. These will give you that mechanical advantage you need. And then this next part, most K'NEX pieces attach rod to end, just like so, but they can also attach in a way we call a cross snap. And that's going to just go on the side of the rod into the face of the connector. This takes a little more strength, but just use your thumbs. And there you go, you're good to go. Now for this next step, we're going to do kind of at the same time. We're going to attach these 2 long rods and then slide all of these connectors through, so that way it's solid. And then I'm going to attach at the bottom And then I'm going to attach right at the top. And so now we're completed with step 3. So in a lot of this instruction manual, we're actually going to make an assembly or a group of parts, and then we're going to make it either once more or 3 times more. And then we're going to bring them all together in the next step to create a large section of the model. So now, if you flip the page, it's going to say, okay, you're going to take a copy of this assembly, which we're going to use a little TV magic right here. And now we have 2 sections. So I'm going to join these 2 together with a total of 4 connections. 1, 2, 3, almost 3, and 4. Okay, so now I'm done with step 4. This is going to be our first platform of the Eiffel Tower model. And just like we did before, we're going to take a number of pre-built sections. So again, this is exactly the same. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm just going to connect these onto the rod cons. They're just going to snap like so. And I'll just go around the perimeter. And then just line them up so they're just touching in the corners. All right, those look good, and I'm just going to make some minor adjustments here. All right, we're good, and we're done with step number 5. So on step number 6, you're going to see this icon here, and just as it implies, we're going to flip this portion of the model 180 degrees. So I'm just going to flip the model so it's upside down, and then this will help us introduce this next section of parts. So I'm just going to do 1 connection at a time, 8 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so at this point we've reached step number 7, so we can actually take this part of the model and put that off to the side for now. In steps 7 through 12, we're going to build the bottom support legs. And what we're going to do is build 1 and then build 3 more. So let's get started. Okay, we've got a triangle. We've got this section here. And then this part as well. And then this is called a 4H connector. This is called a 7H. This one has 4 openings for rods, and then this, what essentially looks like the opening of an H. And those will actually just slide and click. You'll feel it. And that will engage and lock that in place. And then you're going to do the same thing just like so. So now comes step number 8. And so I'm going to just put this section together here. Or no, not that section. All right, I'm going to bring this section together here. And then I'm going to need 1 small black rod. And that's just going to thread through these 1 connectors. A 1 connector just has 1 hole and then an opening. And so now I'm going to press this rod con into that black rod, and then that will be able to rotate. And then I'm going to take this second rod con, and that's just going to engage into that 5 connector. And then you're good to go. Okay, so now with step 9, we're going to take this 90-degree section of structure, and we're going to attach it onto what we've already built. The best way to do this is attach right at the center, and then rotate it to engage the other 2 sections. And then you're done. So now that we're on step number 10, we're going to bring in a few other assemblies. We've got this section here, and this one as well. Again, we're going to use another cross snap, so use your thumbs. And then this is just going to connect at the top like so. And there we are. And then you can just lean that down. That'll work out the best. So now we're on step 11. We're going to do a few more cross snaps. We're going to bring these sections in, as well as these two strings of parts. Now in this section, we're going to actually use a part called a clip. And this has a small post at the end, and that will insert into the face of another connector. So the easiest way to do this is to connect this bottom section first. And then I'm just going to do that on the opposite side. You'll notice with a lot of K'NEX models, there's a lot of symmetry. So when you go to assemble one side, you're going to assemble on the other. So now I'm going to cross snap at the top into this rod con. And then this clip, the post is going to insert into the lower hole of this connector. And that's just going to go in like so. And then into the other side as well. Okay, and that's what you'll have once you finish step 11. Now step 12, there's one really important thing to note here. You're going to have this upper assembly here that'll attach right at the top. But then you'll notice in the instructions, you're going to see 36 of these bronze length rods. And you may be wondering, okay, there's one here, so 4 for 4 different post lengths. Where are the other 32 coming into play? If you look very closely, those posts serve as the cross members that will really help to strengthen up this structure, so don't forget those. And I'm just going to thread those through. All right, and that completes step number 12. Now again, with a little bit of movie magic that we can do here in the studio. I wish I had this for real builds. There's our second leg. There's our third. And there is number 4. So now, by the time we get to step number 13, we're going to have these 4 support legs, and then we're also going to have our first platform. Step number 13 looks a little intimidating, there's no doubt about that, but all you're going to do is join all of these sections together. And the only extra thing you're going to need are these 4 bronze rods. So this leg, you're actually going to go upside down, and you're going to thread this rod through these 2 connectors. And then you're going to cross snap that into there just like so. Now once you make that connection, you can actually bring this part, and then you're just going to make 2 standard rod end connections in. And that's what's going to hold that leg together. So now you're just going to repeat that for the other 3 legs. Okay, so at this point, you're complete with step number 13. And so you'll notice that the support legs are a little bit unstable, but that's fine. Once we get to the next steps, those will lock everything in. Okay, step number 14 and 15. I'm going to do together. So we're going to create 4 of these assemblies here. And then I'm going to take 4 of these L-shaped assemblies as well. These are going to come together. Okay, this brings us to step number 16, and what we're going to need is 8 snap caps. And snap caps are these little round pieces, and they go on the end of a rod, they will snap on, and then they'll lock anything in place. And so this step is a little unconventional, but it will work out just fine for what we're doing. We're going to take this L-shaped assembly, and we're actually going to feed that through the structure to the point where you have both of these rods coming out to the exterior. And that's just going to sit there and float there. There's not actually a standard connection made there. So now I'm going to do that on the other 3 legs as well. Okay, so now that those L-shaped assemblies are within the support legs, I'm going to take this assembly as well, and I'm going to start joining these together. And that's where our snap caps come into play. and those are going to just pop on like so. And then I'm going to go to this next section here. And do the exact same thing. And so I'm going to do that just on the other sides now. So with step number 17, you're going to see what almost look like pins. And this is a snap cap, a spacer, a rod, and then another snap cap at the end. And there's going to be 8 of them in total. So to make this work, I'm going to start in the interior of the structure, and I'm going to thread this pin through this 1 connector. Then it's going to go through the 2 connector, and then at the end, I'm just going to place a snap cap. And that's going to lock everything in place. And I'm just going to do that 7 more times, and that will lock everything in. Okay, now that we've added the pins in, that definitely stabilizes the structure. Now there is one important thing to note in step number 17. You're going to see that there is this longer rod at the bottom in the parts list. This is the longest length rod included in the set, and it appears to be straight, but then when you look in the actual model assembly, it's curved. This is actually the same rod. What you'll notice is that the rods included in the set are actually flexible. So they come out straight, but then once you put them into the model, you're going to place the end near the bottom of the post, and then attach this end to the opposite side. And then you're going to have that nice arch shape. And then you're just going to do that for the other 3 sides of the tower. Okay, with that being done, that completes step 17. Now we're on step 18, and we're going to create just a standard K'NEX grid pattern. You'll see these in K'NEX Classic sets in just about every model. And in those models, these 5 connectors would usually be yellow, these 8 connectors would usually be white, and these rods would be blue. So now we're just going to put everything together. And you'll end up with something like this. You'll notice that the corners are missing, but when you bring it over to what you've already built, the bottom footprint of the posts are going to serve as those corners. So now this may not match up perfectly just at first, but that's fine. There's still enough flex to be able to line these up in place. So once I have one corner assembled, I'm going to go directly across and just maneuver that into place. I'm going to make 4 connections, and then I'll do the remaining 2. Okay, now that that's in place, that should be a relatively flat surface. If you notice it bowing or bubbling, check to make sure that these rod cons here are fully engaged into that rod. Okay, so now at this point, you're basically done with step number 19, and you can actually flip this whole model over. And at this point, you're actually completed with the bottom tier or the first platform of the tower. So now at this point, you can actually put that off to the side. So now we're going to be on step number 20. And this begins probably the most challenging aspect of this model. With that being said, take your time, follow the instructions, and we'll get through this. What we're going to do is create one support structure, and then, like we did in the previous steps, replicate that 3 more times. So let's get started. Okay, we've got our center string of parts here. There's a line of connectors going down the center, and then you have a few rods offshooting from the sides. Then I'm going to engage this top string of parts. and then this bottom assembly here. And that will just click into place. So that's going to be my center string. Now if we go to step number 21, we're going to create another line or string of parts. And all it is 5 connectors and these small black rods. And so in this case, we're going to connect these rods to these connectors at the bottom. And you're going to notice 6 different red arrows. That indicates where the connections are going to be made. So if we go at the bottom here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then if you notice at the top, this detail indicates that this rod is not going through this connector, it's actually going through behind it. So now when I go to step number 22, I'm going to create another string of parts, very similar to the last. And just like before, I'm going to connect to 6 different rods right at the base. And then the only other place I'm going to actually make a connection is right at the top with this black rod, and then you're good to go. So then, now that I'm done there, I'm going to flip this over so I'm looking at the inside corner. And I'm going to start using these clip pieces once more. Now these clips, the most important thing is that I'm going to place these into the right set of connectors. So in order to do this, I'm going to actually count from the bottom. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to see an arrow going into that 4th connector up. And then it's going to go 4 to 5, and then 5 to 6. So on my actual model here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that clip, the post is going to insert into the center hole. Then I'm going to go into this 5 connector, just like so. And then from that 5 connector, I'm going to go up into the next set of connectors. And it'll look just like that. So I'm going to have 1 there, and then we're just going to create 3 more. So again, TV magic. 2, number 3, and then number 4. And that completes step number 23. Okay, now we're going to be on to step number 24, and we're going to take these 4 sections of pieces and we're going to join this on to the bottom of our base. Now if you have an extra set of hands here to help you, that will definitely be preferred, but if you don't, you can definitely do this on your own, not a problem. So the one set of parts you are going to need to bring in is 4 of these smallest length black rods, which are these guys right here. And the first thing you're going to do is actually thread these through these corner 1 connectors here. And so the easiest way to do that is actually if you take this 1 piece apart, and then so you can actually just slide it right through. And then you can just go back. Okay, so now that these 4 black rods are where they need to be, what I'm going to do is start off at the base of this support structure, and this rod con is going to engage into that rod that I just threaded through. So I'm going to do 1 corner, and then I can just let that down for the time being. And then I'm going to go to the opposite corner where that's lying, and I'm going to lift this up. And then I'm going to gauge this section. And I'm just going to let those 2 lean into each other, and that will keep it where it needs to be for now. So now I'm going to go to the 3rd corner and do the exact same thing. That's going to lean into there. And then I'm just going to go to the last one here, and they'll all end up leaning into one another. Okay, so now we're actually where we need to be. I know this looks a little precarious, but don't worry about that. With step number 24 in the instructions, you're going to notice that these support structures look very curved, but when they're actually built, they look more straight. And so that's absolutely fine. This is how it should look. These next few steps, we're going to create assemblies that will tie these all together and actually help to create that curvature. So now I'm going to create the assembly in step number 25, and that's really going to help lock all these together so it doesn't look quite like that at the moment. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this assembly here. I'm going to add these rod cons on here. Okay, so now I'm good to go with step number 25. And then with step number 26, I'm just going to introduce this to the top. The best way to do this is just focus on threading these longer rods in through the holes of the 3 connectors. That will help you out. So I'm just going to take one of these at a time and just be patient with it. Okay, so now that I've got those through, I'm going to start connecting the rod cons. And again, just take your time with these. And then this is another step where, again, if you're limited with the dexterity of your fingers, you can use the pliers to give you a little extra assistance. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that's just going to help me line everything in place and then make that final connection there. And then I'm just going to go through and make sure that everything is lined up and looks the way it needs to. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now you're done with step 26. So now you go to step 27. Step 27 is just creating this assembly here. You're going to thread 1 connectors as well as these spacers through these rods and create this square shape. And then once you get to step 28, this one goes together a little more simply. All you're going to do is just thread the holes through the top. And then if you actually need to put a little pressure on these rods, that will help line these up so it'll go in just a little bit easier. And again, just take your time, be patient with it. Okay, and now you're good to go. So now by this part of the model, you're going to start to see more of a curvature with these support spans. And so the last part of this to really get that shape locked in is going to be our second tier. We're going to create this assembly here, and again, we're going to introduce these clips, and I'll show how those go into the next step. And then once we get into step 30, we're going to create a very similar assembly, and these are actually going to join together. So when you lock these in, you're going to take a rod con, and then you're going to notice this is going to actually come together at a 90-degree angle. So now once you're done with step number 30 and these two are combined, this whole thing is actually going to go over the top of the model, and it's going to actually just go down the span. And so the most important thing to note is where this is going to line up with the connectors. So if I count from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So this needs to actually go down about 1 more. And you can actually put a little pressure on these just so that way that sinks down. And then just start working with one connector at a time. So I'm going to put this clip into the center hole of this connector. And then I'm going to take the next one and do the same. And then I'm just going to go around the model and just keep doing that slow and consistently. All right, now I'm on my third one. Okay, and then I'm on my very last. And that's going to go in just like so. All right, so now that's locked in place and that looks really good. And then I'm just going to take a look at this and make sure that everything is lined up, positioned where it needs to be. If anything's out of line, I can easily there's enough room for adjustment where you can move things around to get it where you want to be. All right, I like the way that looks and I think we're in good shape. If you do need to make any minor adjustments, again, the needle nose pliers can really help. Or if you just have a small flathead screwdriver, that can also help with any fine-tuned adjustments, just to help you out there. Okay, we're at a really good place in this model. We've tackled the most challenging part of it. So now the rest of it should go fairly straightforward, and this is where things are really going to start to speed up. So on section 32, I'm just going to create 2 assemblies of parts, just like so, and they're essentially just mirror images of each other. And so what I'm going to do is just make my connections up top here, and then there's just this third connection in the center, and we're good to go. And then we're just going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So now in step number 33, we're going to create just 2 simple strings of parts. And that is just going to connect like so. That looks good. And then I'm just going to attach this on the back side. And that's looking really good. Okay, so now we've gotten to the point where we're going to start building the top platform, and then we're just going to attach it to the top. So in step number 34, I'm going to create 4 assemblies. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in step number 35, I'm just going to need 1 8 connector. That'll go in the center. And so this again is another unconventional connection. What you're going to do is actually attach these at a 90-degree angle. So you're just going to press them lightly together to the point where there's just a little bit of space showing in between there. And then I'm just going to start adding the other sections into the openings. Okay, and that completes our assembly there. So now, onto our second assembly for this portion. You'll start with these 2 7/8 connectors together. And then you're going to take an 8 connector like before and just press it together. And then just keep going around. And then just take your 5 connectors. So now in step 37, you're going to combine these 2 together, and the best way to do this is if you actually offset it just a little bit. And so then you'll make the rod con connections first, and so just go around 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then rotate it back so that way your 5 connectors connect onto those black rods. All right, and that completes step 37. So now, in step 38, we're just going to take a few more groups of parts and just make some basic connections here. And then just add these on just like so. And that can stand just on its own. So then step number 39 is just taking these 2 sections of parts. This is going to be your top spire. That's going to click just like so. And then again, when you go to put this into the existing assembly, offset it, and then just rotate the assembly into place while you're connecting everything together. So now we're getting just about to the end. We're at step number 40. And what we're going to do is just attach this last section onto the top of the tower. So I'm going to close this, put this off to the side, and then just bring this to the top, and then that will connect onto the 4 rods here. And again, just be patient, take your time. You can either slide the rods through the rod cons to the side or pop them on directly. But either way, that should go on fairly easily. If you need to use pliers, go for it. And then sit back, relax, let the achievement set in. And if you like this build, definitely check out our London Eye as well as our Golden Gate Bridge models. They're the same building experience. Again, I hope you really enjoyed this. If you liked this build or if you have any questions at all, please just comment down below and I'll try to answer you as best as you can. Again, if you're missing any parts for whatever reason, please reach out to us on basicfun.com. We want to give you the best K'NEX building experience possible, and so we want to get those out to you as soon as we can. All right, that finishes our first K'NEX tutorial build. Until next time, my name is John, and remember, with K'NEX, if you can imagine it, you can build it.